Think you've seen the best the PS2 had to offer? Think again. These 10 forgotten gems never got the love they deserved. Some games are polished, some are serious. God Hand is neither, and that's exactly why it's legendary. Released in 2006 by Clover Studio, it's a 3D beat-em-up that feels like an unfiltered love letter to over-the-top action and martial arts flicks. You play as Shin, a wisecracking drifter who inherits the mythical God Hand, granting him absurd superhuman strength. But here's the kicker, you get to build your own move list. Every punch, kick, and combo can be swapped, rearranged, or replaced with stranger attacks, from spinning back fists to literal groin kicks. It's a combat sandbox that rewards creativity and punishes sloppy play. The tone? Unhinged. One moment you're fighting luchador wrestlers in the desert, the next you're in a casino drop-kicking mobsters. It's self-aware, campy, and gleefully stupid. But under that chaos is one of the deepest, most skill-based combat systems of its era. Mastering its dodge mechanics feels like learning a martial art, and once you hit that flow state, it's pure gaming bliss. Critics were baffled when it launched, but over time, God Hand became a cult classic. If you're willing to embrace the ridiculous and push through its challenge, there's nothing else like it on the PS2. At first glance, Drakengard looks like a standard hack-and-slash fantasy, swords, soldiers, and the occasional dragon fight. But a few hours in, you realize something's off. You play as Kaim, a warrior bound by a blood pact to a red dragon named Angelus. Together, you carve through thousands of enemies on the ground and rain fire from the skies. It's satisfying, brutal, and then the story starts to twist. The further you push into its 5 branching endings, the more the game peels back layers of betrayal, madness, and outright nightmare fuel. By the time you hit the true final ending, an ending so bizarre it crosses into another game entirely, you're in territory no other PS2 action title dared to touch. Directed by Yoko Taro, the same mind behind Nia, Drakengard doesn't flinch from uncomfortable themes or morally grey choices. It's a war story, but one where the heroes are just as broken as the villains. The gameplay can get repetitive, sure, but that's almost the point. An endless grind through blood and fire while the world collapses around you. It didn't sell like Final Fantasy, but for players willing to stick through its rough edges, it became an unforgettable cult classic and the seed for one of gaming's strangest, most beloved universes. Most hack-and-slash games make you the lone warrior. Chaos Legion makes you the commander of an army. Released by Capcom in 2003, it's a gothic action game where every swing of your sword is backed by a squad of supernatural creatures you can summon at will. You play as Siegvarheit, a knight cursed with the power to control legions, living weapons bound to his soul. Each legion is its own beast. One might tear through enemies with brute force, another shields you from incoming fire, another bombards foes from afar. The real trick? Swapping between them mid-combat to chain abilities and create absolute battlefield chaos. It's loud, it's relentless, and it's unapologetically stylish. Towering cathedrals, enemy swarms that fill the screen, and a heavy metal soundtrack that turns every fight into a spectacle. Critics at the time called it repetitive, but those who learned to master its Legion system discovered something most action games didn't dare to offer: total control of a small army while fighting in the thick of it yourself. It may not have reached Devil May Cry's fame, but for players who love high-intensity, customizable combat, Chaos Legion is a PS2 underdog worth rallying behind. Plenty of licensed games ride on a name. Ghost in the Shell standalone complex could have done that. It didn't. Released in 2004 for the PS2, it takes the cyberpunk intrigue of the anime and turns it into a fast-paced, gadget-filled third-person shooter that actually feels like stepping into Section 9. You control Major Motoko Kusanagi, Batu, and other team members as you run through missions that mix gunfights, stealth, and hacking. The movement is pure freedom, wall running, climbing, and leaping between ledges while laying down fire, and it nails the source material's tone. Enemies aren't just goons, they're part of conspiracies and tech crimes that tie directly into the Ghost in the Shell world. The real hook is the versatility. One mission has you ghosting through corridors in silence, the next has you laying waste to enemy drones in open arenas. It's stylish, it's challenging, and it respects the anime's smart, layered storytelling. But because it didn't have the marketing muscle of bigger shooters, it quietly vanished from the conversation. leaving only the fans who played it to remember how much of a blast it was. Imagine an RPG where your heroes turn into demons and eat their enemies alive. Yeah, you heard that right. Eat them alive. That's not some edgy gimmick. It's the beating heart of Digital Devil Saga, Atlus's 2004 gamble that fused Shin Megami Tensei's difficulty with one of the strangest story premises on the PS2. It starts in the junkyard, 6 tribes locked in a brutal war for a single prize, ascension to Nirvana. Victory isn't about glory, it's survival. Because once the demon virus spreads, hunger becomes an instinct. And your allies? They're looking at you like dinner. Unlike other SMT games, there's no demon recruiting, no quirky side quests, just you, your team, and the mantra system, a skill tree that lets you shape every fighter's abilities from scratch. You can create healers who double as glass cannon nukers or tanks that hurl firestorms. Every choice feels permanent and dangerous. So why did so few people play it? The timing. It dropped in the shadow of RPG giants like Final Fantasy X2 and Star Ocean 3. Without a massive marketing push, it quietly sank, even though the atmosphere, Shoji Meguro's soundtrack, and that sequel hook make it unforgettable. If you've ever wondered what SMT looks like with zero filler and a laser-focused, high-stakes story, this is it. And finishing it changes how you'll see the sequel forever. Tokyo, 1931. The streets hum with jazz, neon lights, and whispered rumors of the supernatural. That's where you come in. Raidou Kuzunoha, a sword-wielding, revolver-packing detective with the authority to summon demons on the job. On paper, it sounds like pure pulp fantasy. Until your cases start uncovering cults, curses, and a conspiracy that snakes through the city's underworld. Every lead you follow feels like peeling back another layer, and what's underneath isn't pretty. Here's the kicker. This isn't turn-based combat. You're in real-time fights, slashing enemies with your blade while barking orders to the demons at your side. Each has its own strengths, weaknesses, and bizarre abilities, from freezing enemies in place to draining their life force. The deeper you get, the more you feel like a detective with an army at your back. So why did it go unnoticed? Simple. It launched late in the PS2's life when the gaming world's eyes were already on the next generation of consoles. Even within the Shin Megami Tensei fanbase, it was a niche inside a niche. But here's the thing. King Abaddon wasn't just more of the same. It streamlined combat, added demon fusions on the fly, and packed in multiple endings that actually respond to your choices. If you want a detective noir wrapped in Japanese folklore and supernatural chaos, this is one case file you can't ignore. Some horror games rely on cheap jump scares. Haunting Ground scares you in a way that lingers, because here, you're not the hunter. You're the prey. You play as Fiona Belli, a young woman trapped in a sprawling Gothic mansion after a car accident. She's not a soldier, she's not armed with an arsenal, she's not Leon Kennedy. Her only real defense is Huey, a loyal German shepherd who can distract, attack, and even save you in desperate moments. The terror comes from your stalkers, twisted, unpredictable pursuers who learn your habits, search hiding spots, and taunt you when you run. Each one has a different obsession with Fiona, and the game forces you to study their patterns while managing your fear, literally. The more terrified Fiona gets, the harder she is to control, stumbling, panicking, and making noise that can give you away. This constant cat-and-mouse tension makes every escape feel like a victory, and every mistake a heart-pounding disaster. Released in 2005 by Capcom, it slipped under the radar despite its rich atmosphere, clever AI, and one of the best companion systems in survival horror. It's unsettling, stylish, and still unlike anything else in the genre. In Last Raven, there's no saving the world. The world's already gone, fractured into warring factions, each clawing for what's left. And you? You're a mercenary caught in the middle of a 24-hour countdown to all-out annihilation. From the moment you boot it up, the clock is ticking. Every mission you take pushes the war toward one ending or another, and with 6 possible endings, you never really know who's going to walk away, or if anyone will. This is From Software at their most ruthless. The mechs are fully customizable down to the smallest component. Boosters, frame parts, generators, weapon mounts. Every gram of weight matters. Every energy drain is a potential death sentence in the middle of a fight. And the enemies? They're not cannon fodder. They're other elite pilots with builds just as deadly as yours. Even fans called it brutal, but that's also why it's unforgettable. Every battle feels personal, and every win feels earned. It's not here to hold your hand, it's here to see if you're worthy of piloting the best war machine on the planet. Most players never saw half of what the game had to offer, but those who endured the difficulty found one of the deepest, most replayable mech experiences in gaming. In most horror games, you keep the monsters as far away as possible. In Fatal Frame 3, you have to let them get close. So close you can feel them breathing. Only then can you trap them forever. In a photograph. You play as Rei Kurosawa, a woman haunted, literally, by grief after a car accident. Her nightmare is a sprawling, decaying mansion that bleeds into the real world, and once it takes hold of you, escape isn't an option. You'll wander its silent halls, knowing something is always watching, always following. And when it strikes, the only weapon you have is the camera obscura, a cursed device that exorcises spirits if you snap them at the perfect, terrifying moment. The Tormented weaves its story through overlapping perspectives, pulling in characters from the previous games. That's where its real sting lies. Each return visit to the mansion digs deeper into loss, guilt, and the fear of forgetting someone you love. But its pacing is deliberate, the scares methodical, and, in 2005, people passed it over for flashier horror. For those who stayed, though, it's a masterclass in psychological dread. Every step forward feels like walking into your own grave. Some JRPGs hook you with gameplay. Magna Carta, Tears of Blood hooks you the moment you see it. With its Korean-inspired fantasy world and character designs by Hyung-tae Kim, it looks like a lavish art book brought to life. But beneath the style is a system that plays unlike anything else on the PS2. You follow Callance, a war hero with a sharp tongue and a hidden past, as he crosses paths with Wraith, a mysterious girl whose powers might end the decades-long conflict tearing their world apart. Sounds standard enough until you step into battle. Here, turn-based combat isn't about picking from a static menu. Instead, the Trinity Ring system forces you to hit timed button prompts to pull off your moves. It's part strategy, part rhythm game, and it turns every attack into a skill-based gamble. Nail the sequence and you'll crush your enemies, but slip up and you'll pay for it. Pair that with the Carta system, which lets you customize abilities to suit your style, and no two playthroughs feel quite the same. Critics at the time complained about its pacing and difficulty spikes, but that's exactly why it's worth revisiting. It demands patience, rewards mastery, and offers a world that looks unlike anything its Japanese contemporaries were doing. And there you have it, 10 PS2 games that deserved way more love than they ever got. Each one brought something bold, strange, or unforgettable to the table, and yet they slipped through the cracks for most players. Whether you're hunting down rare horror titles, diving into cult JRPGs, or unleashing pure chaos in a brawler, these games prove the PS2 was more than just its big-name hits. If you've already played any of these, drop your favorites in the comments, or let me know which underrated PS2 gem you think I missed. Because the truth is, the PS2's library is still full of surprises. You just have to give them a second chance.